Hi, this is Ralph, and in this video I want to continue working with images. So I've been playing around with this one image. It's a JPEG image from a cyclocross event that I took last winter here in Bend, Oregon. So there it is, image on the web. All you got to do is put in your image tag, use an alternate text attribute, and then refer to your actual image with that source attribute. And then I was using some inline styles to give it a little bit of sizing. Not the best way to size an image, but if you just need to make a minor adjustment to its display on a web page, not a bad way to go. Now something else I want to do. This image is inside of a div, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to put this image inside of a paragraph because I'm going to include some text. So my image is a hyperlink, and I also want to have some text related to this image. So I'm just going to put in some dummy text. And I'll just jump it back over here. This is a bunch of dummy text. Please disregard. And I'll just repeat this line several times. There we go. So now I have an image and text within my paragraph. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to save this, go back to my browser, and refresh. And what you're seeing is it's the default reaction to an image mixed within text. Images are inline elements, and this image is just simply part of the text. The image is right in line with the text. Now, if I want my text to wrap around the image, then what I would do is I would float this image. Some people might suggest using the align attribute inside of the image, but I'm going to discourage the align attribute, and I'm just going to use a style float. I already have a style attribute inside of my image tag, so I can continue working with this. After width 300 pixels, I can do a semicolon and also put in float left. This will float my image to the left of the page, and the text that follows it will wrap around the right side of the image. So when I save this, go to my browser and refresh, now my image is over here on the right side. And if I had even more text, save, browser, refresh, you'd start to see that text wrap around and underneath. Okay, and just to emphasize it, let me go ahead and scale this picture down a bit, 250 pixels. There we go. So when you float an object, the elements, the text that follows it, will slide up to the side of it and wrap around it. This, by the way, is the technique for making multi-column web page layouts. So if you think, wow, that text is a little bit too close to the image, I'm not too happy with that, well, then you can start to do other things. For instance, I could put padding right on the image of about 10 pixels. Okay, so I simply added another declaration to my inline style, padding right. Save that, go to the browser, refresh, and now I have a little bit more space over there. So that's an image on the web with float. Now there's other ways you can use images too, and that's as backgrounds. Okay, so let's check this out. I'm going to jump up to my internal styles, and I'm going to create a rule for the body of the page, and I'm going to choose background image URL cyclocross.jpg. I'm going to use that same image as a background image for the body of my page, and that's the syntax. The property is background image, then I put in URL, and in parentheses I put the path to that file. If my file was in a subfolder of my CSS file, then I would do images/. Okay, but it's not, so I'll just keep it there, refresh, and now that image is clearly, it's a background image. So, and we really see it over here. So it's a really big image, probably not the best one to use as a background image. Now if I don't like that repeat status, and I can also say something like background repeat, no repeat. Okay, so by doing that, I'll keep that background image from repeating. Still not the best background image. So you have to be really careful when you do use background images. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that out for a moment. Now something else you'll see people do is use a background image when it's actually on the page itself, and it's kind of an interesting and weird technique. For instance, let me jump down here for a bit, and I'm going to create a div, and this is going to be ID equals cycle image. There we go. So I've got this div on my web page, and it's uniquely identified. Now check this out. I'm going to go up to, in fact, I'm going to take a bunch of this text out. Okay, so cyclo image. I'm going to go up to my styles, and I'm going to create another rule for my cyclo image element. Okay, and it's uniquely identified, so I can use this ID selector. And I'm going to put in background image URL cyclocross.jpg. I'm also going to do the width of my div is going to be, let's see, how about 640 pixels. The height is going to be 480 pixels, which I happen to know are the dimensions of my image. Close that off. Okay, so that's saved. Go back to my browser and refresh. So the big image down here is actually a background image on a div. Kind of a weird thing. So obviously if I right click on my smaller image, that's an actual image tag. If I right click on this one, I get options like view the image. There it is. I also get options like save image as. Okay. But if I right click on this bigger image, which is a background, I don't get an option to view image, but I do get an option to view background image. There it is. And if I right click, I don't get an option to save the image as. It's a background image, so I'd have to view the background image. Sometimes you do get options to save background images though. So now my image is a background image. So just a different way to go there. Now there's a few different kinds of images people will use on the web. I've been experimenting with JPEG images, or at least one JPEG image, a JPG file, and that's the most common for photos. JPEG images support over 16 million colors, and they have very good compression, so for the quality, they look good on the web. So most photographs you see on the web are JPEG images, but they're not the only images. If I just head over to abcnews.com, for instance, we don't know exactly all the types of images on here, but it's safe to assume that if it's a photograph, very likely a JPEG. And let's see. I'm going to go ahead and view image info for this image. I just right-clicked on this main photo, and sure enough, we can see that it's a JPEG image, JPEG or JPG, and here's the complete path to it. So that's a JPEG image, perfectly normal. Also, by the way, let me go back and view the image info on this one here. Look at the file size, 38 kilobytes. That's a pretty good file size for an image on the web. It'll load pretty quickly. So that's kind of nice. Now the other thing that you'd have to look at, there's other image formats. So I see this welcome to ABC News. That's regular text, and they don't seem to have a logo loading up. Let me turn off my script blocker though. There we go. So now we start to see, they got a logo up here now. Let me right click on this and view the image info. And this one is a GIF image, but is it? Now this is a little trick, by the way. This is kind of neat. I'm glad it's happening here to us. So I did a right click onto this image, and it took me over to this spacer GIF. This is a really common technique. This spacer GIF is, notice it's 1 pixel by 1 pixel. It's a transparent image, and it's a common tool in web development. So they are using this ABC News logo is actually a background image on a container, and it could be this one right up here. So that's probably the path to it. It's a GIF image and it's a background image. So the logo is right up here. So what they've done is they've probably created a div. They made their light gray matte GIF logo the background image, but in the div they put in this little spacer GIF. Now the spacer GIF isn't 100% necessary, but it puts some content in there. As you can see, they've given it some dimension, 1 pixel. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. There it is. So, and they have it scaled to 164 by 70. So they've scaled this little GIF image, this invisible GIF image, they've scaled it to the dimensions probably of their logo. Nope, and that's probably not it either. Matte GIF, that's probably it. Yep, that could be used in their navigation menu. So, But now we can kind of see where all those images are. So the spacer GIF is a kind of neat little technique. But it means, though, that I can't just right-click and get this image. Let's see. So if I view the image, we're not going to see anything. It's a little invisible GIF somewhere probably up in this vicinity. Okay, so let me backspace. So that makes it tougher to right-click and get their image. I mean, no image is 100% safe from people taking it off the web, but that's one common technique. So this logo, though, it could be a GIF image, but it could also be a JPEG, or it could be a PNG, a PNG. We'd have to really look and find out what the path to this image is so we can see what it is. Because there are some gradient colors, that might be a JPEG. JPEG does really well with gradient colors. GIF images are better with solid colors. Let's head over to CNN real quick. See what's going on their page. Okay, so there's a CNN logo. Let me go and right-click on this one, and I will view image info. Okay. So here we go. So this is the CNN logo, and sure enough, it's a GIF image. And it's small, it's 119 by 82, but look at this, it's under 8 kilobytes in size. So the CNN logo is very small in file size, as it should be. It's not made up of a lot of colors, so it doesn't take up a lot of bytes. And a GIF image is good for this one. You can also use some transparency with GIF images. So it's possible that this image, let me just do a view image here, it actually does have a solid red background. But with GIFs you can do transparencies, which makes them easier to place on different backgrounds if you don't know exactly what it's going to be. So that's normal. A GIF image for a logo with solid areas of color is a good way to go. Yet on these photographs we would expect to see JPEGs on there again. So let me go ahead and view image info. There it is. And sure enough, we're back to a JPEG for a photo, around 42 kilobytes. So GIF, JPEG are very, very common. Now there's also PNG images out there, and I didn't happen to just stumble across one, but sure enough, you'll see PNG images too. PNG images are often going to be maybe used in the places where GIFs are used. JPEGs are still best for the photos, but occasionally you might see a PNG file where you might think a GIF file was the ideal.